been
not ready.
that would have been really awkward.
You asked me, "Am I ready?" and I didn't say yes.
But you paused.
I wasn't talking before.
You paused too long. So it just seemed like you were waiting on
Welcome
me.
to the Jesus Cartel.
So we're in here now. What's been going on with you, man?
Apparently not being ready.
It happens. It happens.
I was very ready. I just didn't tell you that I was ready. You know, I ran into a lady this week that I was surprised that she watched the Jesus Cartel.
Ah, yes.
And it wasn't, I don't know why I was surprised, because she loves me with all her heart and happens to go to church with you.
Sure.
So you know, it makes perfect sense. When she loves, when she tolerates, but she said that she really enjoys the opening clap.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that was even a thing, you know.
Oh, it's a thing.
Yeah. So.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
Now, for some of our more recent viewers, that wasn't always a part of the show.
Yeah.
It used to be out, and I decided to include it because we always used it.
Yeah.
But I edited it out completely. And what I would do is I would synchronize the very first vocal waves in the audio wave. I would synchronize those together. But the clap is where the initial syncing happens.
Yeah.
And so I was like, why don't I
put
just
it in the show now?
why don't I just include it? Because what I saw was we always had a weird banter around it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I kind of like it.
Let them know why.
Let's let them know that it's a little weird.
Okay.
I wanted people to see that you're as weird as I think you are. And if I've not succeeded in anything else, I feel like I've at least done that.
Amen.
And so,
Welcome to the Jesus Cartel.
and that's why I always clap. That was horrid. We are gearing up for soccer. That is what's happening in the Skull household.
Oh, yeah. I heard a story yesterday. You'll have to share that story.
Which one? The one where the child was ready like
Yeah,
9
yeah,
hours
that
before.
one.
So yeah, they had soccer evaluations yesterday at 4, and I get a text message at like 7:40 a.m. My 6-year-old is dressed head to toe in her soccer gear, cleats included, just ready to go. And she's funny, man, because like Arlen is one of those. I hate to say all of my kids because realistically, I only have 2 kids.
Yeah. We don't
I
know
have
how it goes.
I have 4 children, but only 2 of them do we really know anything about.
Right.
We're learning about the 3-year-old, and the 1-year-old is just still a wild man. Yeah. And so I only have 2 kids that we actually really know for sure. Like this is kind of the trajectory they're on. The 3-year-old may switch it up majorly in the next 2 years, but. The 6-year-old, she's the one that's like, she's active, but she's very, very girly. She's gonna wear dresses. If you will let her wear a princess dress, turn on some music, she will sit in the living room and spin all day, the entire day, and never get tired or dizzy somehow. I'm not sure, but that's kind of her. And so she tolerates sports. We are. I hate to use the word forcing. But we're forcing her to play sports right now because I think that it provides a lot of valuable things to young people in terms of learning how to overcome adversity, learning how to work with other people. It's a great social interaction, develops a lot of great coordination. There's lots of good reasons to have your kid in sports. And she's not objecting to play sports. She's not saying, I don't want to play it. She just is like, take it or leave it, And so we've got her playing sports. My 8-year-old loves them. But the 6-year-old, she's kind of hit and miss. And then the other day, she goes, I'm so excited to play soccer. And I was like, yes, excellent. I said, do you like soccer? Oh, she goes, soccer is my favorite sport. And I said, you don't say, which, soccer's like the least prominent around here. It's the hardest to really get involved in Franklin Parish. But, nonetheless, we'll figure it out. But then she goes, well, really, we always get ices after soccer games.
There you go. Hey, that's
So
a good thing.
really, I like ices.
Yes.
And so that clarified, the fact that it's not really that she loves soccer, but that child does love an ice.
Are you planning on cutting out the ices?
I'm considering it.
Yeah. If
I'm
you're not,
considering
then there's no point in even having this conversation.
Yeah, I'm considering it.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's what's been going on lately is, we are with children. You're gearing up from season to season based on what's going on with them. We just went through vacation Bible school and all that stuff. Now we're gearing up for soccer, and Aria is going to be playing basketball and softball with the FCCS school this year. And so, some new things on the horizon for us, and we're pretty pumped up to just kind of see where it goes and get her in some new circles. She is a lover of people like her dad, and so she's just so pumped about it. And so that's pretty much that's Skull household lately. And then there's the counseling situations lately have been more heartbreaking than normal, and so had a lot more heaviness as far as what we've had to deal with as a family, which isn't our own issues, but just issues regarding people that we love dearly, seeing them suffer in some situations that it's no fault of their own. It's kind of being shoved onto them. That's never any fun. And so just kind of getting in the trenches with some people and loving on some people who you can't do anything else for. There's nothing I can do to fix their situation. I say that. There's almost nothing. I talked to my friend on the phone, and, we were just we've been in constant contact about it, and I told him, I said, well, look, brother, I said, here's what I want to do. I want to make some phone calls on your behalf, and they're going to be wildly aggressive phone calls because that's what's warranted in this situation. Said, but I don't want to cause any more stress for you than is already there. I said, so you let me know when you're out of options, and you call me, and I'll make those calls. And some time passes, and I got a phone call not too long ago, and he goes, I think it's time. And so I had to have some very, very difficult conversations with some people who are just blatantly moving unbiblically in some things, and it happens. I'm not trying to throw a rock at them. I still love those people. I made that very clear on our phone calls, but you can't pull back from what they're doing, and so it's difficult when you see people you love in a situation that's kind of helpless and almost hopeless, but that's been a lot of our last few weeks. What about you?
Man, everything is just moving forward. It's good. It's getting my favorite season of the year, football season, and I love it. I love it. Before we get there, we Fresh Start's doing great. Man, we got some guys, testimonies and what God's doing in the life of the guys at Fresh Start and the ladies is really, really cool. Just really good to see how great the morale is and how much they are enjoying learning who they are, and it's really cool. And then at Thrive Church, man, we're just knocking it out of the park every single week, and just the biggest issue at Thrive Church is to find out how to get more people in the building. It seems like several times a week that's the topic of conversation is how can we get more people in, and coming out of the summer into the busy time at church, and knowing that we're there, and so that's cool. And then last night they had the very first 412 youth group at Thrive Church, and just had a great night, and a lot of good kids there from several different schools and stuff, and just had an outstanding first night. So yeah, all those things are great.
That's awesome. I haven't said anything to you about that, but I have been nervous about it for you. But I didn't want to give you more to think about than you've already had to think about, and I wasn't sure if it was on your radar. So I am glad to hear that it was on your radar already, because I know that as a church numerically and capacity-wise, y'all are kind of at capacity. Yeah. And I've been thinking in the back of my mind, summer is a lull most places. Yeah. So yeah. I've had a little bit of concern for you guys as to, what happens when the fall rush comes through. Like I said, I just didn't want to be the guy.
Yeah, so anybody that's not used to church demographics and how everything works and stuff, there are two main rules of thumb there as far as church attendance goes. Number one, your biggest times is September. If you're going to do something new in a church, you do it September because the kids are back in school, Labor Day's over, and then you go from there. And this time it works out perfectly because Labor Day's like August the 31st. You're right. So if you had a big series that you wanted everybody to be at, you would start it the first week of September after Labor Day, right? And then the other rule of thumb is once you get to 80% of the capacity of your sanctuary, then you have to change. You either have to build, go to 2 services. Where the issue with us and what Andrew's alluding to is when we walked into this building, we were at over 80%. And so at the time we thought that we could get around 100 to 110 people in the place. The 2 weeks leading up to us moving to this location, we had 120. Now we're hitting 150, and all of this, like Andrew said, was in the summertime.
Yeah.
So this is all in times where you're supposed to be hit and miss, and we have been.
I was
hit
about
and
to
miss.
say you have been.
We have been, but at a larger scale.
Yeah.
Right, and so now this past Sunday, it was fun and a lot, and we expect that to keep going. So hey, good problem to have.
Sure.
The fruit is definitely there. The people are growing, and it's just great to see.
In case anybody's confused about the 80% capacity thing, just a brief explanation, because I know that probably sounds really weird to a lot of people. It's like 20% capacity is a lot of extra space.
Right.
That's really an American church thing because Americans value comfort. And so once you get over 80% capacity in a room, people start to feel uncomfortable. And so let's say, let's use my family as an example. There's 6 of us, right? For us to find, if we don't walk into the church half an hour early, for us to find 6 spaces uninterrupted, for us to comfortably sit, it's to be very difficult to do. And so what will we end up doing at most places? Well, we end up standing in the back, staring around, and a bunch of people kind of stand up and try to help guide you around, but it always ends up in some kind of a weird situation. And so you will actually, believe it or not, lose church attendees because your room has breached that 80% capacity. And I agree with you, anyone who's thinking it is ridiculous. Completely agree. But it's also reality. And in life, we have to deal with in reality. And so there's what we hope and what should be, and then there's what is. We can't deal in hope.
If you ask the average person at a non-denominational church in the U.S. was how many people, how big was your congregation today? If they're anywhere over 60%, they're usually going to say we're either full or we're packed.
Yeah.
Somewhere there's a gap there, and I don't know exactly where it is, but they're full at 60%, and they're probably packed in their mind somewhere around 70, and they're getting pretty uncomfortable when you get to 80.
Yeah.
Now people love to say their church is packed.
Yeah.
And so they like, but what they don't like is when it's really packed.
Yeah.
They like to say it's packed because it feels almost packed, but it's really not.
Yeah. It's hotter when it's packed.
Yes.
It's harder to move in and out of the aisles. It's harder to find seating together. But when you have a church that is moving with the Spirit of God, people tend to look past those kinds of things.
Yeah, ideally, if you have a family that's the size of 4 to 6, which at 6 y'all would take up 5 spots. Ideally, there would be an open seat on one side of you and an open seat on the last person in your family.
Yep.
That's the way most people think. And so if you look at that, that's where that 20% comes in. Because y'all got your 4 or 5 in between, and then you got the opening on either side. And that's kind of the, for every 4 people, there would be an opening on each side. But if you ask anybody, we're packed.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
right.
anyhow, good problem to have, brand new church, people on fire for the Lord, loving the Lord, coming every Sunday. Now I got a youth department, so man, life is good.
That's good. Are you going to do the, what is the technical word for it? I want to say commentary, but the broadcast, are you going to do the broadcast for the football team again this year?
Yeah, so the best time of the year for me is football season, the best season of the world, and my son is a senior this year at Mangle, and I will be doing the radio broadcasting again. And in fact, we don't usually do the scrimmage or the jamboree on the radio, and so the scrimmage is a week from tomorrow, which probably today when we show it, a week from today, and then the scrimmage, the jamboree is Bayou Jam the next week. Well, usually we wouldn't do that, so it still kind of felt like there was still some time. But then Coach called me Monday and was like, "Hey, look, they want y'all to broadcast Bayou Jam this year. Are you cool with it?" I was like, "Well, sure." Well, that day I go to practice because now I'm jacked up, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, they act like football started a couple weeks ago. They never quit playing football. I mean, they've been working out every day. Not that they're doing anything illegal, but they're doing something every day. And just like
they've been recruiting,
just like we always baseball.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I'm just saying they've been doing this whole time, so it's like whatever to me. But Monday I go watch practice, and now I'm ready for it.
Yeah.
And so those of y'all that know me, I love watching the Mangum Dragons. I've coached those boys coming up. I love all those boys. I love LSU, the Saints. I just enjoy watching football. So this is a good time for me.
So two small questions regarding that. They're related, so you should be able to answer them pretty easy. First, I'd like to hear your preseason prediction for the Mangum Oak Grove game.
Yeah. So
because Oak Grove just had a major, like the senior class has kind of been the carrying class for a long time. Doesn't mean they're not still going to be a great football team, but everybody kind of knew the kids that just graduated. So I'm curious.
So the Gina game is the very first game. That's going to be difficult because they run a different kind of offense. We got a brand new defensive coordinator. Coach Woodward's taking back over defensive coordinator. He's running a defense he's never ran before. And that defense won't work probably against Gina. So then you got to do something different. So the Gina game is going to be difficult. They made it to like the finals of 3A. The OCS game, we just got through talking to Matt Rayleigh. His son Isaac Rayleigh looks like he's going to be the second string safety, which means he'll get to play a lot, in that role. So that's great. He's a freshman. He's like 19, but he's a freshman. But anyhow, with that being said, did you see their pictures this year? Anyhow, with that being said, it is what it is. And, oh, man.
This is why we can't have nice things.
This is why we can't have sponsors.
Yeah.
But Matt Ray's never sponsored this show.
That's true.
So, I love him, but that's on him.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so the OCS game, I feel like we will get beat by probably 30 or more. But the Oak Grove game, we're going to thrash them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mercilessly, huh?
Yeah, they lost quarterback stuff, but they still got like a senior quarterback. We got a sophomore quarterback.
Yeah.
Our whole offensive line is shot, but we're going to smoke them.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it is.
So the related question is, you had a youth department. Now you got a youth ministry that seems to be thriving, but I've been told it's a pretty controversial hire because the youth pastor and wife are big Oak Grove Tigers, and I was just wondering, is that going to cause any sort of dissension within the ministry? Like, what's kind of your thoughts on that?
Right. So here's where it comes down to, because I've put a lot of thought into this. Number one, Ryan is an implant. He's not. You still listen to him. He's still got some of that Cooney in him. He is not Oak Grove at all.
He's from Broussard.
I think the only Oak Grove games he's ever been to was playing Mangum. And everything. And Morgan was raised in Oak Grove, no fault to her own. But since then she's gotten saved. And I would like to say healed and delivered, especially from a lot of things. And neither one of them even work in West Carroll Parish at all. So they leave West Carroll Parish every single day to go spend the majority of their day in Richland Parish. Whether it's Richland or Franklin, anywhere besides West Carroll. That shows me everything.
Okay.
And I understand that they got kin folks, or she's got kin folks that play over there or whatever. I understand that. But it's really, we know where their heart is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can respect it. So, little get to know you segment question. I don't know why this came to my mind. I just had some weird thoughts today. And so, and I asked this question maybe because of just me having to deal with so many people over the last couple of weeks. But I want to know, it's a red flags kind of question. What is something that when you find out someone likes this particular thing, that it just causes a major red flag for you? For instance, you find out a guy likes Coke instead of Pepsi, and that's just like, okay, what is something in your life like that you immediately have some negative thoughts?
I just thought of 3.
Okay, give them to me.
I don't know if I'm going to share all 3. All right, so the first one is a guy that drinks creamer that I would consider to be of the female variety. So I can't think offhand what kind there is, but I just thought about that. Pumpkin spice.
Yeah, that one's not okay.
Coconut cream.
That one is also not good.
And pistachio. Those are the 3 things I see in our refrigerator way more than I should.
I am real curious where the pistachio thing even came from. Now, look, I love pistachio nuts.
I understand.
But it is an unusual creamer for sure. Okay.
Is there another one that's in our refrigerator? I remember those 3 right now. And we have an all-male refrigerator.
Yeah.
I mean, supposed to.
Yeah, allegedly.
Supposed to.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good one. That's a good one.
So that throws up a red flag. The second thing would be when a woman comes up and talks to me that usually doesn't talk to me or not as much as she normally does, and then I find out that she's having marriage problems or split up with her husband. Yeah. So
major red flag.
I run from those situations.
Major red flag. Yeah.
Major red flag. I ain't got nothing to do with it. It might not be your fault. It might not have nothing to do with you. It may not, whatever it is, but that ain't got nothing to do with me. And so when it isn't somebody, when it's somebody that I'm used to seeing and it's a hey or whatever, and then now all of a sudden it's a hug and I'm trying to have a whole conversation, and then I find out why, then I ain't got nothing to do with it.
Yeah, those situations are weird too because I never know about them while they're happening.
Right.
I always find out
I'm
later.
Wondering why.
Well, I usually
I do.
Call me stupid, and that's fair. There are some things I'm ignorant to in life, but because I am naturally a pessimist, I try to overcompensate by thinking well of people. I try to. I'm not great at it, but I put legitimate effort into not thinking negatively about everything that happens. So there'll be times where I'll go talk to them and say, hey, such and such was oddly pleasant today. And they're like, well, that's because I'm like, oh no. You know what I mean? Like, that would have been some information I'd have loved an hour ago. But
would have been great if they'd just been nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, hey, look, if you want to be my friend, we can be friends.
Yeah.
But if we find out that's the deal and that's the reason why, then it's difficult for me.
Agreed.
And that was the one I wasn't going to share that I just thought of.
I thought that was a really good one, though.
Yeah. And then the third one is messy people in the sense of drama. I can't deal with somebody that's into the drama, and let me tell you why. Andrew and I deal with a whole lot of drama all day, every day, and it's none of our own doing, nothing to do with our family or whatever, and we have to deal with drama because life is tough, people are messy, sin is difficult, and all that, and so there's a lot of drama we have to deal with. And that's okay. I'm not mad at that. We chose this life, being pastors, working in addiction. Andrew talked earlier, sowing into people that, still having difficulty. I understand that. But when we have to deal with drama outside of this for no reason, that's just people being messy, people talking about people, just wanting to gossip and stuff like that, it's difficult for me. And I'm just a guy that just shuts down. I just don't have anything to say. Because there's so many times where there's conversations happening around me in Walmart, in life, and wherever, where people were speculating on the truth of something. And I know the truth, but I don't feel obligated to tell them because they're not looking for the truth.
That's right.
They're just wanting to be messy.
That's right.
And I know the answer to it, good, bad, or ugly, because I'm on the inside of so many conversations, so many things that I have to know because I have to take care of it, being a counselor. But I'm not trying to share those with anybody else. And so when people are just, just wanting to just be messy, wanting to, talk trash about people and stuff like that, it's really difficult for me because at my core and at your core, we love people.
Yep.
And we want to see the best for people. And building, tearing them down is never going to build them up. They're already tore down. These things are coming. We need to help build them up, or don't do nothing with them at all. But
Yeah.
don't try to tear them down even further. So I guess that would be the three things: guys that don't act like guys, women that only talk to you when there's an issue at home, and then just messy people in general that just want to talk trash about people.
Yeah.
Dang, man, we did a lot in that.
You did. I just sat here.
Tell me which one of those you disagree with.
Yeah, I can't.
Okay.
When you were talking about this, now I will say I do put a lot of creamer, but I don't drink coffee to make it coffee. I enjoy chocolate milk, and so what I'm trying to do is turn my coffee into chocolate milk.
And coffee is more readily available here than chocolate milk.
That's correct. You won't keep it here. I've asked, and so that's what we got. But I will say, when you're talking about that last one there, dealing with messy people and stuff like that, a lot of times what we find is usually somebody messed up somewhere, and they have realized that they messed up, but they can't fold their hand without admitting that they lied. That is so absurdly common in most situations that have, when you see a situation that just gets way out of hand, I can tell you that it is with 99% accuracy. I can tell you that someone has, who is on the other side of it, also agrees that this has gotten out of hand, but they can't pull back now. They've already committed themselves to this being true. They didn't intend for it to get as messy or go as far as it did, but if they pull back now, they've got to admit that they lied. They're just not going to do that. One of the situations I was talking about last week with my buddy was just such a situation. In one of those phone calls that I made, I called out exactly what I thought happened. I mean, to the T. I called out the parties involved. I called out what I believed their motive was. I called out where I thought that it turned and how they ended up where it was. And the person on the other side of the phone, there was just a long, dramatic pause, and he just goes, "I think you just hit the nail on the head there." And he's on the other side of the issue from me. And he's saying, everything that you just accused of my side, I think you're right. I agree that that's probably what happened here. But also agree, I don't know how we pull back. And so it's a mess. So I got three as well. The first one just kind of goes to your last one. People who enjoy gossip, that's a major red flag for me. Like people who want to hear things, and a lot of times it's joked about, but I still kind of get cautious around it because, like, we'll be talking in a room and somebody will start to say something, and then they'll stop. And they'll go, you know what, man, I shouldn't. And then somebody in the room goes, well, hey, you got to tell us now. You didn't let us there. That, major red flag for me. It's like, look, you just heard this guy acknowledge that he was making a mistake, possibly about to walk into a sinful situation for himself. I do the opposite. I'm like, well, hey, don't then. If you don't think you should say it, don't say it. Go the other way. I don't need to know. I'm not interested in knowing. Go away. And then they'll sometimes argue with me. It's like, no, you know what? It's not. And I'm like, no. If this sets something into your spirit, some conviction into your spirit,
the Holy Spirit.
We need to quit. Yeah. We need to just not.
That was the initial promptings of the Holy Spirit.
Right. And so gossip is a major one for me, just because it's so destructive. And I have found, probably 80% of the things that you hear are wildly untrue. And then, most manipulation has an element of truth in it, and that's what makes it effective. Is you'll take one thing in the story that is true, and people know that part's true, and so they'll link that, okay, so there's some truth here, and then you just run off the rails on the rest of it. But because there's a little bit of truth in it, they just accept the whole thing as truth, and it's like, it's just too messy for me. I don't want any part of it. The second one is people who enjoy pity. People who are always playing the victim, enjoy being, pitied, and people feeling sorry for them. It's like, that is a massive red flag for me. Like, I get that sometimes situations are terrible, but I'm going to do a lot better with the guy who's trying to shove through than the guy who's wanting everybody to, cry with them. It's like there's a time to cry, but it's a very short and brief window. And I'll cry with you for a very short and brief time. I cried over this situation with my buddy last week. Right. And I'm not a crier by any stretch of the imagination, but I went through some stuff recently similar to what he went through, and it broke my heart to know somebody else is going through it. That sucks. And so there was a short, brief window where I cried, but then it's like, all right, what do we do? How are we moving forward here? What do you need me to do? You need me to make some phone calls? You trying to find another job somewhere? Like what's the pieces look like? And we started coming up with, I say start coming up with action plans. I can't make those plans, but I started shoving him forward, and he's that type of person too. So he was already like, hey, here's what I want to happen. Here's what I hope happens. Here's what I won't do. And, he's in a good headspace about it all, but it still sucks. And so, I'm not good with pity. If he was just sitting there crying, talking about how miserable everybody else is and how wronged he is, even though it may be correct. That's the deal. Just because there are occasions where someone legitimately is a victim. Mm-hmm. That's a real thing. You can be victimized. But there's a difference in being victimized and being a victim and letting that become your identity. You can't identify with what happened to you to such a degree that it overtakes who you are. And, if that were the case, man, I'd still be a lot of things that are not who I am today. I would look very different if I was just a victim of what happened to me and I allowed that to be who I was. I'd have an unhealthy marriage. I'd be not a great father because I'm scared to death. I might lose it all. And so I just blow it up myself so I don't have to feel what it feels like to lose it again, Like that's what happens when you let that become who you are. And the third, and probably the strongest of the three, is people who like cucumbers.
Come on.
I don't know what's wrong with y'all, man. They're disgusting. They smell horrible. They taste like death. I don't. And that to me is the most concerning of all of the things. If you like cucumbers, then you and I, we're not of the same tribe.
Question there, two questions.
Okay.
Number one, do you get heartburn from cucumbers?
I don't know.
Never ate enough of them to know?
No, I have accidentally had cucumbers a couple of times in my life, and it was such a terrible experience. The smell of them makes me nauseated.
See, that was going to be my second question is, what about, like cucumber melon soap or something like that?
Rather die. I had a buddy when I was a sophomore in high school. He was my best friend. His name was Wade Tracy. He knows I don't like cucumbers. He and I were playing basketball one time, and he had a cucumber, and he broke it open and rubbed the cucumber on my basketball, and I never touched that basketball again. I just lost a basketball, and it doesn't mean a lot to a lot of people, but I played basketball every day with that ball, and I was willing to let it go to not have to associate myself.
I'm not a cucumber fan at all.
Well, that would be impossible. The blades wouldn't create any wind.
Yeah. I don't really see, why, it's a good thing. And I'm also not into the smells or anything like that. But I have heard that a lot of people get indigestion or heartburn or something from cucumbers.
Good.
Yeah, and it's like, well, like you didn't need already an excuse not to.
Yeah, I think that they deserve it. Now people ask me this a lot of times.
Pickles.
What are my thoughts on pickles?
Right.
A pickle is a wholly different thing. Now, I don't eat. I will take a bite of a dill pickle once every 3 years, and that's about the extent of it. I enjoy pickled juice on very rare occasion, but it's not something that I love by any means. I will never ask for pickles. But yeah, that's a question I get a lot, and so it's I don't know, man. I just think those people should repent and find a new way. Now, I do love sushi, and there are a lot of chopped up cucumber in sushi. But here's the deal: you may not know this. It may sound crazy to you, but it is legitimate. you can request for them not to put sushi in whatever roll you order, and they will not put it in there.
Yeah, so I'm very. That's the only time I ever intake any cucumber is in a sushi piece or something. But we just get them take it out. And get them not to do that. I enjoy Sam's sushi just because I'm watching the people make it and stuff. But if you don't catch them do it, then you can't do anything about it. And they have cucumber in all of them. But if you can catch them early on Saturday mornings around 8:15, 8:20, they'll make you something about it.
And even if you like remove it manually, it's still there. It's still there. And so I don't know what. I don't want to be critical of the Lord, but I will have some questions. If he's just entertaining questions about creation when we get there.
So do we know that he created cucumbers? I've never done a deep dive on it. I've never looked into it. It might have come from something else or whatever. I don't know that he said on the fourth day, let's create a cucumber.
That's fair. I'm leaning towards no. I'm leaning towards no. We'll have to explore that some more.
I'm with you.
So last week our episode was on marriage and whether or not we recommend it to people, and that was a bit of a twist on a topic that you and I have talked a lot about. I feel like people felt it was a little controversial the way that we kind of spoke about it, and I think that there were some people who got their feelings hurt, and that's okay.
I think there was on both sides. I think there was some people that was like, so are you being critical because we got married at a young age? And then I think there were some people that were like, y'all are pastors, you're supposed to recommend marriage at all costs. And we didn't fall anywhere in any of that,
Sure.
Our deal is that, hey, we look on it individual, or it seemed like after we talked, and it seemed like our evaluation is that we look at it as a case-by-case basis. But we think that getting your relationship with God right is way more important, especially early on.
There's a sociology study that's happening right now where they have, it has come to its fulfillment. It's come to its completion. And they have realized that there is a master plan for the order by which a person can live their life that will all but guarantee them success.
Come on.
And this plan was that they would first graduate school, and that then they would get a solid job, and that then they would get married and then have children in that order. And they have figured out that if it will be done
all that money
in that order, then you are setting yourself up for success. And it's like, welcome to thousands and thousands of years of like elite biblical living, the way that we recommend it. It doesn't seem that complicated, And so why is it case by case? Because where are you in all those things? Are you prepared to have a wife? Like there's a lot more than even just having a job that makes you prepared to have a spouse. And so everybody's just kind of in a little
There's
different
a country
spot.
song, and I can't remember it right now, but it's basically saying that one of the worst things that can ever happen to you is to not have the one, not have the person, not have that. But worse than that is losing that one. Meaning that you wasn't ready for her. And so the worst thing, then, she's getting older and she hadn't found. The worst thing would be is that she did find him, but she wasn't ready because she didn't have her stuff together, and she lost him, or
That's
he
tough.
lost her, or whatever. I think that's worse than not finding that one or whatever in that time frame. So,
Sure. And I actually think that song's by the Black Eyed Peas. But today's question.
Okay.
Again, I just had some weird thoughts. And so here's what was on my mind. And I think that this is how I arrived there, because a lot of times people, because you and I are fairly we're fairly sure-footed in the things that we believe. We come across, I think, very unwavering and possibly to a detriment at times. I think that maybe people see us as too staunch in some of the things that we believe. And so my question was, what is something major that you have changed your mind on or changed your stance on over the years? Like, is there anything that you've ever like really believed strongly about that you've said, you know what, as I've matured or whatever, I now stand on the opposite side of this aisle? You got anything like that in your life? Does anything come to mind?
Yeah, this one's difficult. The first obvious answer is that I just kind of grew up Southern Baptist, grew up thinking that you walk the aisle, you say the prayer, you ask God to live in your heart, and now you're saved, and then the rest of life is kind of already decided. You just kind of live it type deal. Mm-hmm. And then when I heard the truth of that and heard that I didn't have to be a filthy rotten sinner my whole life and that kind of stuff, it changed me forever. And so that's the major change,
Sure.
is that. But other than that, and we've talked about identity a lot. So me changing my identity was a big deal. Other than that, I said for a long time in my life that I hate old people, right?
I've heard you say that, yeah.
Well, that hadn't changed, so that's not one. I still hate old people. Right? So other than that...
I did not expect you to take the opportunity to double down on one. Wow, okay.
All right, and so other than that...
What is old? Where is the threshold?
It's not an age deal. It's when you think you can say whatever you want to say, mm-hmm. think you can do whatever you want to do, mm-hmm. and think you can smell ever how you want to smell, and there's no consequences to your action. That is when you're old. So,
in regards to what you just said, how long have you considered Brad Clark old?
I don't think Brad has any of those qualities whatsoever. Now, let me say this. Now, this is going to ruffle some feathers. A pretext to that is when somebody starts a story.
Oh, no.
And about 3 words in, they have to take a 5-minute pause because they can't really think about either the name of the person or usually it's the name or what they were really even talking about. And now you're just sitting there.
Yeah.
Now that usually happens like around 60 years old or so like that, where it's really difficult to have conversations with people that age.
That's wild.
But when you get up to that, high 60s, 70s and all that, to where you think you can just say whatever you want to say, do whatever you want to do, and smell and all this kind, and there's no that's when I just don't have a lot of time for you.
So first you described 3 of Brad's qualities, and then you randomly chose his age at 60. This seems targeted, brother.
Yeah, so that's one thing.
So that has not changed.
That's one thing that hasn't changed. Another thing I'd like to say before we go into I'm going to try to come up with one that I've changed, because I'm going to look terrible if I can't come up with one. So I'm going to come up with one. But another thing is, I heard this one time, and it was, probably true. It said that when you're in college and stuff, if you aren't liberal, then you have no heart. Because you're meeting all kind of people, you're learning all kind of people, you're seeing people from all kind of different places, and you're starting to have a softer approach. So, you're high school, you're in college, if you're not liberal, you have no heart. And then once you graduate out of high school, out of college, and get a real job and everything, if you still are liberal, you have no brain. And so, that's never really changed in my life either. I've always been pretty conservative. I've always had a conservative approach to everything. I've never been too hot or too cold, on certain things, but I've always been able to, see things for what they are, and everything. So, with all the things that haven't changed, I think the only thing that I can come up with I've really changed my stance on is I was not ready to have kids when we had children. Miss Becky and I had dated for 4 years. but we never lived in the same place. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have text messages. We really dated the old school way of dating. When we got married, I had to take a job, and it was on the road selling insurance in Baton Rouge, in New Orleans, and different places. And so I was ready just to spend time with her. And we had a 5-year plan to where, this is where my mind changed. We had a 5-year plan to where we were supposed to have kids 5 years later, which would have put us together for 9 years first. But like I said, we weren't together as much as people are now. I don't know if anybody does it the way we did it, because we didn't have social media, didn't have all this kind of stuff, didn't have access to each other the way they do now. But we had a 5-year plan, and I remember one day on 165 North, we'd been married for about 2 years, and Miss Becky said, "Hey, look, she was hinting around about she was ready to have children." And I said, "Well, look, I'm not going to be ready to have children because I just enjoyed spending my time with you." And I said, "So when you get ready, just let me know." And she said, "Okay, I'm ready." And so then we decided to create our family. Yeah. And so I guess that was the biggest change that I've made in my life, was from not wanting a family then. I'm not saying but it was like you've told stories about how you always wanted, the family and kids and all that. That to me, it's not that I didn't want to. It wasn't the priority on my list. But so I changed from that not being a priority to them being a major priority in my life. Sure. So I went from the guy that doesn't necessarily even have to have kids to feel fulfilled in life to being super dad and winning dad of the year every single year. And so that was, I guess, besides my identity in Christ, besides my marriage, that was the big deal for me. And it was a big turning point in my life because, not only did I have children, but I had girls, and
That's right.
It starts off with the T-ball and stuff like you're talking about into the sweeties, and hey, that's cool for me because, we're doing something competitive and all that. But then when we're paying $100-something a month in dance to put our left toe out and then put our left toe in, and then we're buying all these dresses and stuff, or and then we get into more girly things that aren't competitive, that aren't what I'm doing, then it's difficult. But I become the best cheer dad there was. Now in my mind, I'll tell you how I dealt with that. In my mind, it was my job to make sure of two things. Number one, that all of their hard work did not go unnoticed. So when they said, "Everybody stand up," I stood up. Yep. When they say, "Everybody say go Dragons," I say go Dragons. Because my daughter worked so hard on this that I want to make sure that somebody's listening to them and doing what they say. Yep. And then the second thing I did as a cheer dad was I felt like everybody around was out to get them. And so at all times, I was on guard watching the situation the entire time to make sure I didn't need to defeat the enemy and handle business. So as a dad, it kept my blood pressure up. It kept my my mind right, and it kept me looking at things because I wanted to protect. Yeah. Yep. Makes so I went from not wanting kids to being dad of the year. Yeah. Very good.
And you hate the elderly.
Still.
Yeah.
And I'm not liberal.
Yeah.
Never have been.
We've established all of those important things.
I did good on that question.
That
was a little more like a get to know you segment.
I felt like you handled that like an elderly person, where you just talked until you found something because you lost yourself, and so
But I didn't sit there and just stare.
Yeah, I would not have let you. So
tell me, what's something that you changed?
So one of the major things, and this is probably, one is maturity, and two is just, taking an unbiased look at my life for what it is or what it has been in the past, is Man, I used to, if you made any sort of like major ethical or moral violation, I would write you completely off in my mind. Uh, and there was essentially no recovering with me. And now, one, I've made some pretty major gaffes in my life. You know about, probably the one that's most prominent to me. It's not something I'm, afraid to talk about. But there's just certain contexts and settings that's, appropriate to share, and some that aren't. But there was just a major stain on my life. And this was even before I really knew my identity and things like that, and I crossed over into a territory I never thought was even possible for me to cross over into, and so it made me sensitive to it made me just aware that not every situation is as black and white as I thought it was. Now, there was still a very black and white correct decision that I should have made, and I made the wrong one. Mm-hmm. But I never could have fathomed that I would have made the wrong choice. It just, like, you could have never convinced me. Yeah, I would have bet anything that I had that I would never make the decision that I made, and then put in the position. Folded my hand. And so that just made me aware that, hey, there is someone in there that's different than the person who made that decision. Because I've seen, everyone has seen what the Lord has done in my life since then. And that was something just brought some awareness to me. And that is not the way that I felt before that happened. I was very, very, strong one way. It's like, hey, to heck with them, get rid of them, don't need them. And then, as my ministry, because my ministry didn't begin until after that. Mm-hmm. And so as I began to minister to people, the type of people that I spend my time around are people who have kind of walked those same paths. Mm-hmm. And so, I'm getting to see more of that, and people who've made decisions that, would just be appalling for people to even hear, and then to see Jesus transform their life and them be someone wholly different. Probably one of my closest friends in the world has done some of the most heinous things I've ever considered a person to ever do. Sure. And I don't regard him in that way. I can't even see him that way. And that's tricky for people. It is, and I understand why it's tricky. But I can also tell you that the transformational power of Jesus is far greater than I understood, and probably if you still feel that way, then you understand too. And I'm not throwing a rock at you. I stood in the same position. I get it. I understand the conviction by which you feel the way you feel. And I don't even want to tell you that you're wrong for feeling it, right? Because I think that the thing that you're feeling conviction against is good and right and true. But it's not the person. The person isn't the enemy. And that's, I think, what I saw before. I saw the person as the enemy, and but that was never what the war was against. We wage war not against flesh and blood, and so once I could get myself beyond that, it was a big thing. So that's on the spiritual end. There's that, and then I completely agree with what you said about identity. So I'm not going to tap back into that, but. As far as just practical life stuff, I think the thing that I've shifted the hardest on is homeschooling. I was very anti-homeschooling my whole life. I was someone who always took a very strong position against it. I've had many debates with people about homeschooling where I was very anti, and with some excellent points, and still the points that have been made, the points I was even making then, the validity of them didn't go away. Those weaknesses have to be addressed. And so, but what I have also found, as I had children who become school age, and right about the time that Arya was getting old enough to be in school, that's when a lot of the changes were happening in the school and what they were shoving into the school system and stuff like that. And it appeared to me that this situation is very much headed the wrong way. That there's about to be some things forced into the school system that we're not going to have permission or the ability to halt. And you kind of see where we are, the state of our country. Right. So that was not a big stretch of the imagination. And so, talking to my wife, we're like, hey, look, I don't want to do this. You don't want to do this. She was a school teacher. She's an excellent teacher, by the way, which is a major benefit we have. They're not being homeschooled by a random mother. They're being homeschooled by someone who has the ability and skills to prepare to homeschool well. That's not a shot at any moms. I'm sure there are some that do an excellent job. My wife was just particularly trained in that area as well. And so huge leg up there. And that's reflected in my children. You could see it when you speak to them. And so what we had to do was, we know what we were trying to protect them from. Can the weaknesses be addressed? And I knew them very well because of all the years I spent arguing against it. And so what I have done is found ways to fill those holes. And is it perfect? No, but neither is the public school system. It's not about it being perfect. It's about it being what we desire, and for our family. And for our family, that's the best thing right now. Will it be forever? I don't know. Well, we may shift in time. And that's also not a knock at people who send their kids to school. And so one of the most, prominent things in my position as a father and a husband is this. Understand that I'm always doing what I believe is best for my children. Just because I believe something is best for my children does not mean it's best for your children. Right. You don't have to do what I do, but let me do what I'm doing.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And so that's the deal. The thing that's odd is how many people want to make an enemy out of you for doing what you think is best for your family.
Right.
And it's like, man, until you see some real, like, everybody's always talking about these wild hypotheticals. It's like, well, what if this happens? And it's like, there are a million what ifs that you could throw right back. It doesn't make any sense. We can't live off of what ifs. Let's live off the reality of what is. And if there are problems in what I'm doing that you can see right now, let's talk about them. Let's address them. I want to have those conversations. Well, what I don't want to have is a conversation of, well, what if your kids are deprived from social experiences? Like, have you talked to my 8-year-old? Does she seem socially incompetent? Right. She's about the most socially competent person you'll meet, and that includes most adults. It's an unusual thing. So I've definitely switched sides of the fence as it pertains to homeschooling. Now, just to say this out loud, and I should stop. But this isn't about an offense thing or gossip thing. I just know that, I don't think I've upset anyone, but this part will. Some of you need to stop homeschooling your kids. Some of you are doing a legitimately poor job homeschooling your children. You either need to stop or you need to seek out someone who can legitimately help, because there are real weaknesses to homeschooling, and it is not something to be taken lightly. My wife puts an unbelievable amount of time and labor into schooling our children. I mean, it is so irresponsible for anyone to say my wife doesn't work. Right. I wouldn't jump on you about it. I'm just telling you, it is wildly irresponsible, because she does not just raise our children and keep them, she schools our children and does a phenomenal job. It is unbelievably toilsome to do what my wife does, and to do it well and do it effectively. Some of you are not putting in that kind of effort, and it is going to affect your children negatively. And I understand the ideal and the principle behind it, because that's why we're doing it. But if you're not willing to put in the labor for it, you need to, I'm not saying you got to send them to public, so you got to find it. You got to get help, though. You got to get some resources. You got to reach into some people who have done this with excellence and get them to help you. Don't just...
You just like the idea of it.
Yeah, right. The idea and the execution are not the same. Right. And so, now that I have succeeded in upsetting at least one person, I think I'm good to go. You got anything else?
Well, I mean, was that if I wouldn't have talked about still not liking old people, would you have even brought that up, or did you feel like that you were trying to show empathy towards me for the backlash that I would receive?
Oh no, I think.
I don't think you were trying to one up me at all.
No, I think I've got a stance similar to that. It's no, I just there are people who I love whose kids are suffering, and and I love them, and we've had these conversations in person. I'm not trying to like subliminally reach out to them through the podcast, like they know. We've had the conversations, and I think it's admirable what they want for their children, but you got to be willing to do the labor for it. And so I guess this what I intended was more of a warning for people who haven't started that process yet, that don't go into it. Don't go into it thinking that this is going to be like you get to relax at home and kind of watch TV passively in the background while your children are around doing their school. That's not how it's done. And so.
Well, and when my children are going to college, they saw the good, bad, and ugly of homeschool. In college. In a lot of people and stuff, and so there's some of it that was done well, and some of it that wasn't done well, and it shows. Yep. When Cooper was at Boise State the other day, it shows. And so it's not just about homeschool. It's about how you raise your kids. There were some really smart kids at Boise State that go to school. They go to private schools and stuff, but they don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to hold conversations. They don't understand all that. They're really smart. They just don't know how to do those things. So regardless if you homeschool, send them to school, private school, or whatever, man, teach your kids how to have good, strong conversations. Appropriate for their age.
That's what I was about to say.
Now we also saw people, have too big of adult conversations with their kids when they were young. Don't do that either. That's wrong. But at some point, I was talking to a guy today. His son is a sophomore, but his son just turned 16, so he could be a junior. Or he could be an 8th grader if you go to OCS. But anyhow, with that being said, he we might as well, but with that being said, his son was a very active young kid that was super active. And his brothers were older. They played sports. They played them well. He played by himself a lot, and he was a very fun-loving, active kid. And then at some age, he just got real quiet, and he was just real quiet. And he's a very good athlete. So he comes off as a mean person because he doesn't talk, and he's very good at sports, right? And I'm not saying whether he is or not, as far as being a mad kid or a mean kid or whatever. But he's a quiet kid that's very good at sports, and so he can come off like he's cocky and arrogant and stuff. Whether he's or not, who knows? But the kid that I see now and lately is the opposite of that. He has really come out of his shell. He, before you had to go talk to him, and he may nod at you and he may not, but he wasn't fixing to talk to you. Now he'll walk across the room to come talk to you, shake your hand, love on your stuff. And so I've seen that from Cooper, and it happened at around 16, 15, 16 years old, to where it went from him just being real quiet to him, being more outgoing, and now it's like a politician. Well, this other kid's the exact same way, and you wouldn't expect it out of him, but he is really growing into that. Now, let me say this, and I'm not saying anything against anybody else.
Sure.
But you typically see that from a Mangum kid. I can't tell you exactly why. I got a couple ideas, and that's not where I was going with this conversation. I was going to the conversation is, hey, there's times where your kids are supposed to be kids and all that, but at some point you got to help them mature, have adult conversations, figure out things on their own, that kind of stuff, so when they get to college, they're not having to call you, asking you, what's the loose leaf paper, whatever. So I was telling you that, and then I talked about the boy, but let me just say this. I see that in Mangum boys. And I have for years, that at some point they become the friendliest, nicest, most well-mannered kids, but not in some quiet way, but in a more proactive way. And I see that. I don't know if it's because of You know, I know like we feed the boys and the coaches make, you know, tell everybody thank you and stuff like that, or because it's still small town America or Friday Night Lights or whatever. But those kids are so well behaved and so appreciative and nice, but they know how to hold conversations. You know, they know how to hold adult conversations and stuff, and it's pretty cool. So, so even if you do homeschool or you do this or whatever, teach your kids how to have good, strong, age-appropriate conversations.
Yeah, and that age-appropriate thing, that's like 99% of the reason we decided to keep our kids at home.
So they don't hear all kinds of stuff before they're supposed to. And I get it. I get it.
Courtney, being a teacher, you know, she confiscated a lot of notes and a lot of things that are passed around, and the ages by which kids were coming into certain conversations was, I'm talking 5-6 years earlier than I had those conversations, and that was just something, because you can't go backwards there. Once they see it, it's seen, and so, you know, with, you know, technology being what it is and being as accessible as it is, it's just something that, you know, we'd rather play it on the more cautious side, and so, like I said, that's what's good and right for our family. That's what we're doing until the Lord shows us otherwise, and if He does, we will oblige. And so, I'm good, man. You got anything else?
No, I'm good. Hey, we love y'all. Thank y'all for listening to Jesus Cartel. We still, amazed that so many of y'all listen to us each and every week, and we appreciate y'all.
Yeah, praise God.